spending on FedEx charges. That can all be avoided if you had a smartphone or one of these type devices, because they've got a little program out there. It's called Cam Scanner, and essentially what you're doing is you're just taking a picture of your paperwork. It puts it all into one file, and then you type in your dispatcher or whoever's email address, and you email them all the paperwork. We've got some drivers doing that now. The documents are crystal clear. As a matter of fact, they come out better normally than they do if they come through a fax machine. And once you've done that, I don't want you to think you can throw the original paperwork away. At least currently, we still want it. So the savings, though, is instead of using an overnight service, you can put it in regular mail, which might cost you, $2 to mail the same amount of paperwork here to headquarters, because there's no big rush for us to get it.
Well, Greg, obviously there's no secret. Our goal is to turn people's trips around within 48 to 72 hours so that we can electronically put money into your checking account. And by having that smartphone that gives you the capability to take pictures of your paperwork and your trip, you instantly send that to Stacy and Myra from an email perspective. And wow, man, I mean, you just picked up 24 hours to get money in your bank. So and if you're building the folders and stuff on your laptops, you have all your information right at your fingertips here. It's not stuff that's sitting in the house. When you have claims, I see Greg's got a note on there about claims, and you get an email from us and requesting information about a damage on a shipment. You have that information to your fingertips. Now you're truly managing your business. At the same time, if you have an accountant that's working on your books, am I stealing your thunder, or is it on the next slide? Hey, Greg.
Well, it's probably on there someplace.
Really? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm on a roll.
I know.
Okay, but the other thing too is we're already sending our PVOs their trip settlements electronically, and it's a shame when I talked to the driver and said, "Where are your trips?" And they say, "Well, they're at home. I haven't seen them in 6 months." I mean, that's ludicrous. You can't. You are having financial issues when you do that, and your accountant's not getting the right information. So, continue, Greg. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's quite all right. Same thing with military paperwork. You need to get the weights and inventories in. You don't have to worry about that. As long as your phone's working, you can just take a photograph of the weights and the inventories, and you can send them into the government department here at headquarters, and you're all set. And there's a lot of other things too. There's tons of information available through this. Your service instruction sheets. A lot of drivers say that well, they didn't get a chance to run by the OA, and they went straight to residence, and they don't have a service instruction sheet. If you've got a smartphone and you have email on it, all that stuff is right at your fingertips. When an order is assigned to you, you should get a sheet on the order. If there's any changes that take place on the order, you should get an email notification telling you that things have changed, what changed. It's a great tool.
We actually have some of our dispatchers texting the driver as well as the driver texting them. Obviously, the driver's not driving while he's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But, just like we have what we call instant messaging in the office, where if I'm on the phone and Greg wants to get hold of me, he can send me a message when he recognizes I'm on the phone. You can, texting does have its positive side to it and benefits as long as it's utilized correctly.
All right. Some of the other things that are available, there's maps out there that, they're free programs anymore. They'll show you exactly where you're at and give you directions to get to where you want to go. Just a lot of things that will help improve customer satisfaction, because you've always got a map. You always know how you get to residence, and you're not going to be late because you got lost. For every driver out there, every qualified driver out there, you can go out to www.svlonline. From this same smartphone or internet device, you get into SVL Online, and everything you need to know about anything, I think, is out there. Every order that you've ever hauled for Stevens Van Lines is out there. And I take that back. For some of you old-timers, just the one since about 2003. But all the orders that you've hauled out there, so if you ever have any questions on anything you might have hauled a year ago, you can go back and call up that order, and all the information's there and available. Your customer service scores, you can see what your customers think about you. All your claims are out there, and they're detailed too. They show the item that was claimed and what kind of damage was noted on it, or if it was missing or whatever. If you're a headquarters driver, your books are out there. If you want to see how much money you got coming or what was taken out of you, you can call it up, and it's up to date right to practically the last half hour, and it'll show you exactly what you've been paid for or what you've been charged for. So there's a lot of information there. From there, you can go from SVL Online, you can go into SVL Info. If you go into SVL Info, all of our operating instructions are in there, our policy and procedure manual, all the bulletins that come out. There's a new one out there, it's called the Pulse system, which is essentially just informational type stuff from each department here at headquarters. There's training material out there. There's PowerPoint presentations you can view. If you pick up a helper that's running with you who needs to learn more about packing, or you want them to be able to inventory or learn about inventorying, there's all kinds of things out there for you to go through and look at and use.
Great.
You're more
Can I ask you a technical question?
Sure.
If my better half is at home helping me run my business, okay? The PVO has to design a password for him to get on, correct? Or does he just do it with his ID number? How does that work?
Well, the first time the driver tries to go in, his username is his 10-digit driver number.
Okay.
And his password is start in capital letters, period, and the last 4 digits of his Social Security number. The very next screen that comes up after that first time he goes in tells you guys to change your password to whatever you want it to be. So at that point, they control what their password is.
Good. So they could give their better half the password. They could give their accountant the password.
Absolutely.
And just think of the vast information that the people that help you support your operation on the road back home have to just be a smarter business person. You know?
Yep. I know there's quite a few drivers that do have their wives have their passwords, and they essentially act as their secretary for them because they've got all the information in it on hand. One other thing that's available out there is when you go out to a job, and if something happens on that job that you feel everybody might need to know about at a later date or time, you can go into a notes screen on that order, and you can type whatever you feel you want to make part of the permanent record on that order. For instance, the customer happens to mention to you that on their last move, they filed a $40,000 claim. That's probably something the claims department would like to know to signal them that, we might have an issue here. So you can go in there and type it in. If you feel that people need to have it immediately, you can check a little box next to their department, and they'll get an email immediately about it. So, and like I said, that becomes part of the record. The other thing is all these smartphones now and all these other devices, they got something built in. It's called a camera. And it's a fantastic tool to cover yourself. If there's damage on a shipment, take pictures of it, send it in right away. And that way when claims gets a claim, they've got an actual picture of what the damage is. There's just so many things. If you need a shuttle for a move, you know, take a picture of the low-hanging trees that show that you can't get the semi in there. And that way, you know, a week and a half later, once the customer or the national account gets the invoice, if they call complaining about there being a shuttle, we've got a picture. We just send them a copy of the picture and say, you know, we couldn't get a semi down that street.
You know, Greg, we have a couple of drivers that actually have that Maps application on their phone. And when they're talking with the customer, asking them questions about destination, the customer is unsure. If the customer's laptop is still up, they'll show them how to pull up that map, you know, where you can literally zoom in and they can physically view, you know, the destination, and at that point in time, the driver has a pretty good idea whether or not he can have good access to it. You know, it's all about being proactive and truly, you know, I mean, you're demonstrating to the customer that, wow, you know what you're doing. You're a professional. There are going to be no surprises for me at destination. Yep. And you know, and if there's a shuttle required, it gives everyone ample time to get to the right folks to have it authorized, and you know, just a much smoother process.
Yep. Yeah. Now with you know, there's all kind of map programs out there, but like Google Maps, they probably got 90% of the country on satellite photography, and now, I don't know, they got a very large portion of the country where you can actually get down, like, you know, down to traffic level where you're driving down the street and, you know, take a look around and see what's all around the residents. So it's a pretty marvelous invention. There's just so much information available.
You know, the customer today, they expect us to have instantaneous contact with our driver.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they'll call me up and I'll have to get back to them. Why can't you get to them right now on the phone? Why don't you click on and talk to them? Why, you know, I mean, they know about, what was it? I heard in the radio
the
today.
Technology available.
That technology, 30 years ago, if a politician said something and made a mistake when he said it, it might take a week to get across the country. It now takes seconds to go worldwide. So we've set the expectations. Technology has set the customer's expectations from a communication standpoint.
Yeah, I hate to date myself, but yeah, 25, 30 years ago, driver left for a trip. He took a roll of dimes with him so that he could hit every payphone between here and California, you know, and those days are gone. That's not what people are looking for anymore.
Last time I saw a payphone was in my daughter's basement as a
antique. Yeah. As I spoke earlier, I told you guys about Cam Scanner. It is available to the best of my knowledge, at least, all the smartphones and all the BlackBerries that are out there. You can go out. It's just an app. You can go out to the App Store on your website. It's free. At least the one version of it is, which I haven't had anybody who uses it run into any problems with it. If you wanted to buy the full-blown licensed version, it's $5.99. So it's in either case, it's definitely not going to break the bank. And if it's going to save you, you know, over $2,000 a year in FedEx fees and things, I think it's well worth your time to go out there, try to get the app, load it down onto your smartphone, and it's got a little learning curve. I mean, it's going to take, you know, might take you a day to get it all down pat, but it's a wonderful device. Something you guys should all have. Now, I have recently went through and I've updated our email system. Every driver who's qualified with United Van. What? What did I say?
Go to the bathroom, wash your mouth out with soap. We'll pause here for a moment.
Where did that come from? Then I'm going senile.
Yeah, well, you're twitching. Go.
Yeah, Steve. Every driver that's qualified with Stevens Van Line has an email address now, unless you happen to just qualify in the last couple of days. Your email address is your driver number, your 10-digit driver number, at StevensPVO.com.
Not United?
Not United.
Stevens, thank you. Okay,
no. It's StevensPVO, StevensPVO.com.
In case you can see, Greg, he's as red as Santa's outfit.
When I was in the Navy, I had a guy that
no Navy's.
No, really.
Move on.
On the ship, and he just transferred from another ship, and the captain was coming aboard, and he was on the quarterdeck. He rang him aboard and announced the captain from his old ship coming back, and kind of what that was like.
Yeah.
So anyways, the only thing you guys need to realize is you need a 10-digit driver number. Now, headquarters drivers, if you look at your driver number, the last 2 digits of the number are actually your driver number. It might be 01 or 21 or 51. And the first 5 numbers are actually your agent number. Now, at headquarters, all of your driver numbers start with the 3-digit number, like 757. So basically, we got to fill up all the voids with zeros in order to make it a 10-digit number. So if your number happened to be 757, you put 2 zeros in front of it, and then you need to fit a filler of 3 zeros in before we get to your driver number, which in this instance is 11. It might sound a little complicated, but it's really pretty easy. And the reason we did this is so that everybody in the entire van lines now can send you an email just by knowing your driver number, which of course is plastered all over everything so that it's not difficult to find. If your personal email address happened to be, Happy Trucking at Yahoo or something, nobody knew how to find that, or very few people knew how to find that. This way, everybody's got a common an email address, so makes it very easy for everybody to communicate. Now, in order to get to this, to check your emails, there's a few things you can do. If you got a smartphone, or possibly even some old flip phones, you could program that number into, or that email, your email address into it, and your email should just automatically appear on your device. The other 2 ways of doing it are to sign into SBL Online, www.com, or www.sblonline.com, and the number 2 option on the menu is PVO email. So you can click on that, and then it'll throw you into the email portion of the program, and you can check on them there. Or if you just at your web browser, you can type in webmail.stevenspvo.com, and in 90% of the instances, it should bring up the sign-on screen for Stevens Van Line's email. Again, takes a little learning curve, but once you do it, once you start using this email address and start checking those emails or receiving them on your smartphones, you're never going to have to worry about, why did they pay this claim and I didn't even know about it? Because the computer automatically generates an email to the driver, to your PVO.com address, as soon as the claims department receives notification of a claim. When the customer first contacts them, they type in, boom, you get an email that says, hey, this customer is filing a claim. And that gives you the opportunity to call the claims department and say, look, I got photographs, I got exceptions, whatever, whatever you know about the move. Again, you'll get updates every time one of your orders changes. Anything on your order changes, you'll get an update. There's just tons of information available to you.
Greg, you know me, I try to tie this all back to TCS. Okay. Because that's why we're here. We're not in the business. We're not here to buy smartphones. We're not here to buy computers. We're all here, and we make our living off of providing total customer satisfaction. And we must never forget that. So when you look at your Stevens PVO mail address or email address, whether you like it or not, email, besides voicemail, is the communication tool of choice by civilized society. So to not offer up an email address to where your customer who is traveling and you're traveling, that they can't communicate with you, and it is quite honestly behind times. And you know, I'm not asking you to be giving out your cell phone number all over the world, because I think you defend that number to to the end for a lot of reasons. But that's why when we do PVO business cards, we're not putting your cell phone number on it, but we will put your Stevens PVO email on it, so that you can, as you introduce yourself, give the customer your card with an email address so they can communicate with you, and I'll let you make the decision if you want to give that particular customer your cell phone number to talk with you. So, you know, it's all about proper time management. It's amazing how you might be able to adjust your schedule and need to adjust your schedule if the customer can communicate with you, isn't it?
Yep. All we got to do is communicate. We don't want to have a failure to communicate.
Yeah. Okay. I knew I was waiting for that line.
Yeah. Okay. One other benefit of having StevensPVO.com email address, if you have Verizon service, you're entitled to a 19% discount off the bottom line on your phone bill. The only things you need, you can go to My Verizon out on the web. If you haven't already set up an account there, you need to register. Once you get into your account, up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a search field up there. Just type employee discount in it. You click on it, and the first item that'll come up on your menu will be a link to set up your employee discount. The only thing you need to do is, of course, have all your address information and things of that nature, but you need to have a StevensPVO.com email address, and you're going to need a copy of your Stevens identification card. If you don't have a Stevens identification badge or card, take a picture, send it in to someone here at headquarters, and we'll get you one made up.
So, Greg, is that a, you know, I picture myself if I walk up to the counter in the Verizon store, and I want to take advantage of this myself.
Yeah, you could do that, too.
Okay, so I would imagine I'd put my company email address in.
Well, if you go into the store, they basically they'll want your email address, and they'll want some additional proof that you're affiliated with Stevens Van Lines, which...
Okay, so there's no special account number that you have to do this?
Nope, strictly...
And it's under Stevens Worldwide Van Lines?
It's under any Stevens email address has been registered with Verizon.
Okay.
And that's essentially our proof to them that this person's an employee.
Okay.
Or affiliated with us.
Okay.
Okay, I talked earlier about SVL Online, and this is just the first menu that comes up in that. And as I said, you can, the first option there is Stevens Info, which will put you into the Stevens information site, which is where we compile all our policies, procedures, training. You can get to the company store from there for uniforms. Go out there, look around, play around, and you'll probably be amazed at what you might find out. The second one is the link to where you can get to your PVO webmail. When you're on the road, you're looking for an agent, you need a phone number or whatever, agent inquiry, you click on that, and you can put in zip code of where you're at or where you need to talk to the agent at, or the city or state, and there's different ways to sort. Domestic reg inquiry, that's key in an order number there, and it'll bring up everything you ever wanted to know about that order number.
Including the notes?
Including the notes.
Special instructions?
Special instructions. Bring up any pictures out there that people have taken involved with it. You can even go out there after the fact if you needed, for some reason, you needed a copy of the bill of lading a year down the road, maybe for your tax people. Go out to there, click on the proper button, and boom, you can print off a copy of the bill of lading. So it's all there. It's all available. Tonnage browse, well, I don't know exactly how much is available out there anymore. It was a great idea. We figured we'd put out there all the available tonnage that was unassigned, and everybody could go through and sort through and pick things they wanted, but sometimes that caused more problems than it solved. So there might be some limits on what's available out there, but you're free to go out there and look. Maybe you can find some fill out for yourself if you know, you don't feel your dispatcher's looking hard enough. On the other side are all the reports. For the headquarters drivers, the first one is broker books. That'll show you how much you got in the bank. Driver status, that one is one where you can click on your driver number once you go in there, and it'll show you every order you've ever hauled. And from there, you can click on the order number, and it'll show you all the information on them. Claims reports, customer response reports, your safety scores, volume report on how much tonnage you've hauled. Down at the bottom, you know, is a quick way to email your dispatcher, and you can go in and load, update your orders by updating the weights and dates and anything of that nature out there. So not only is this information important and available to you, it can save you time. It can save you time sitting on the on the phone, waiting to talk to a dispatcher. You know, if all you're doing is calling in to update them, you know, that you're awake and you're driving through Nebraska or something, you don't have to sit on the phone and wait. You can send them an email with that information and just tell them to call you if you need anything else. This is the Stevens information site, which, like I said, is the first option on that menu. And it's, like I said, you just go in there and play around and you'll find out all kinds of information. Oh, why do we need to try these newfangled things? You know, there's some old timers out there like,
don't mention names,
like myself and Jim,
yeah, right,
who are not enthused about trying all these new toys and these gadgets. I got to tell you, it's not hard. You know, if you run into problems, you can stop any 10-year-old on the street and ask them, and they can fix it for you probably. Kids nowadays, they're just naturals with it all. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get over that learning curve, there's so much available. You know, you can transmit all your paperwork with it. You know, I go to mine, I like to read. I've got books out here, tons of them. I think I got about 100 books loaded on my phone right now that I can open up anytime and read right off my phone. You can stay in touch with your family and friends through Facebook if you're into things like that. You can have all your emails come in there. You got a camera in your hand that you can take pictures with. You name it. There's just tons of things that you can do with this thing. The cost, basically kind of minimal. You're probably your phone fee actually isn't any more probably than what you have right now if you've got a cell phone. The only difference is you might be 10 to 20 bucks a month for your data charge for the internet and the email service, but it's very well worth it.
You know, Greg, I equate the smartphone, for me not thinking that I would not need a smartphone to function in business would be equivalent to saying, take my computer off my desk, I'll just deal with phone and paper today.
Yeah, I mean...
Okay, so when you're out there, I mean, these smartphones are designed for people who are on the go and people who are mobile and people that need to be able to exchange information instantaneously.
Yep.
You know, when you're calling me and say, Jim, I need a shuttle, and I'm talking to you and a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I say, you know what, snap me a picture of that entrance, send it to my email so I can send it to the account, and you know, as a matter of fact, I've had accounts ask me for a picture.
Yeah.
Okay. So how you could be out there today and think you're going to reach your optimum total customer satisfaction goal and optimize your profit margin without the proper communication tools that are out there today that you need to run a business. Gentlemen, that's when he says the older guys, you know,
they don't want no part of it. Damn gun.
Yeah, they have a tough time, and all honesty, they have a tough time with situations without them. And the marketplace is just saying, yeah, must have it.
One thing I didn't have any slide on, and I think I need to touch on because I think word's going to, you know, you're going to be hearing all kinds of things out there. We have gotten 5 EOBRs, electronic onboard recorders. These are programs that are devices that work in conjunction with smartphones or Blackberries or the little tablets to run a logging program and keep track of logs. At this point, we're gonna do roughly 5 or so, make sure everything works, you know, and that everything ties into what our computer system does, and then we'll decide where to go from there. And this is only for the headquarters fleet at this point. Agents, there'll be more coming out on it very shortly, and it's something that maybe you'll want to really go out and investigate. And we'll be more than happy to pass on any information we have to you. We are fairly certain that within the next 2 to 3 years, these are probably going to become a mandatory device. The government's been pushing for it. It's been put on hold a couple times because of court cases. And, you know, it's not a question of if they're going to win. It's a question of how long it's going to take them to win. So we figure we're going to try to beat the curve, get it into use. What's it do for you? Well, number one, you never have to mail in another log. You never have to keep another paper log. You also will no longer need to have trip sheets. The only thing you'll have to submit to headquarters, or to, if you're running on an agent authority, maybe, the only thing you'll have to turn in is fuel receipts for the fuel tax laws. And even those, if you got a smartphone and you use cam scanner, you can take a picture of it and send it to us.
John, the trip inspection, though,
Built in.
it's built in, right? Okay.
Both
Right.
pre and post trip inspection are built in and documented. And it's also, I think it's interesting that when you do a pre and post trip inspection, it encourages you to actually get out of the truck and check those items the way they've got it constructed in the program, as opposed to sitting in your truck behind the steering wheel with a pen and just writing it even though you never walked around the truck. It gives you a methodology where to check your truck in a systematic fashion. You do that first thing when you log in each day and last thing when you log out each night. So the pre and post trip inspections are built in and part of the program.
And these EOBRs, how they work essentially is off GPS. They keep track of where you're at. It hooks into the vehicle, so it knows how fast you went and how long you went. So it creates your log from that. The vehicle stops moving for roughly around a minute or two, I think.
About that.
It changes the status from driving to on duty, not driving. And it does it all automatically. Essentially, you get in the morning, and when you're ready to start work, you punch in your driver code, and it keeps track of the rest of the day for you. There's not much you got to do besides do your pre-trip and post-trip and sign out at the end of the day.
You know, Greg, I know there are people out there saying, we can't run our business like that. And I'd like to address that for a second. You know, we always try to bring everything back to total customer satisfaction. And proper time management is a key component in providing TCS. So when you know, I can see our industry probably changing delivery spreads in situations when this becomes full blown out there at the OBRs. I can actually see discount levels changing to our favor because of it. And I see our service providers increasing their margin, because what you're really doing now, you have a greater sense of structure on how your daily activity unfolds. And I don't care who you are or how old you are, structure is very important in whether it's your personal life or your work life. So, yeah, you want to know what? You're not going to be able to make that right-hand turn and go 300 miles to visit Aunt Sarah, okay? And then have a bunch of questions to answer the next day because you're not where you're supposed to be, and now you can't figure out your logs, and yada, 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 okay? You know what? That's you'll learn to adjust. I really don't know what else to say, and I see Greg over there kind of smiling, but it's the truth. I learned how to adjust to fax machines, how to adjust to smartphones. We do, because that's what we have to do in order to maintain our livelihood.
Yeah, I've already had, like I said, at this point we're only talking 5 headquarter drivers. So that was the number one thing. I got calls after the last thing, guys worried, well, how am I going to learn how to do this and everything? Relax. There's only 5 guys going to start off with to give this a shot. Another question that I keep getting is, how accurate is this thing? I will tell you that it is very accurate. From the one person that does have it installed, it tells you pretty much everything as far as miles and hours of service, and they're very accurate. One person has asked me on here, what about state line crossings?
It does it for you.
It does that for you. It records how many miles you've driven in each state, and I don't know if it actually says what time you cross the state line or not.
That is actually available, but it's not required for the Zeta program, but it does complete the trip report for the driver. Driver never has to fill out another trip report ever, or another logbook. It's all automated. And is it accurate? It's uncannily accurate. It's within about 200 feet of the actual vehicle location, plus or minus.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I asked this driver, I says, are you parked in front of such and such an address? And he says, well, it's right next door. So, that's about how far off it is. It's a few hundred, less than 100 feet probably.
While you're on that, Greg, as far as drivers learning how to operate it, any driver that follows the instructions that are provided with the unit can learn to operate it in one day. There's that little to learn.
Yeah, even from an installation standpoint, this is a plug-in, right?
Installation is extremely easy. It's about a 15-minute process for any truck built since 1997.
Yeah. And let me say this to you, too, that if you are fed up doing your logs and your paperwork and you want to upgrade to a smartphone, and while you're doing it, put the EOBR in, we'll help you with that. We'll help you get to that point. So give myself or Greg a call, and we'll work with you on that. Again, I believe that this is just going to be, and we've had a lot of discussions, another business tool for you just to be a better business person, and it ultimately going to help us all with our TCS scores from our customers.
Yeah, and a word of advice, though, thinking down the road, if you are going to be getting a new cell phone or getting a smartphone or whatever, you might want to think about, number one, switching to Verizon, because that's the account that we're using for this device, and also you get a 19% discount off your bill, so that's another reason for the encouragement there. But, give me a call maybe beforehand, because there are certain devices, there's only certain devices that have been proven to work with this product. So, you know, like I said, if you are planning on switching telephone companies, maybe think about going to Verizon. And number two, if you're thinking about getting phones, maybe think about switching to a smartphone that will work with EOBR. One question out here, what about toll receipts?
Actually, toll receipts are, you know, if you still want to turn them in, they're fine, but they're no longer required as a supporting document if you have EOBR, whereas they are required now for paper logs. So that requirement is waived because they don't need to know when you pass the toll booth because they know they can see it on the report.
Okay, and the main thing about this too is it cures 70% of our CSA violations, because a lot of our violations are not having a logbook, which as long as you got your phone with you, you got your logbook, not having it filled out to the last change of duty status, which that goes away too because it's automatically recorded. And what's the other one?
No, you can't falsify it.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
I did have a question as to is this something that can be somehow managed, and it is designed to be automated and not something that can be where the data can be manipulated in any way. The integrity of the system. By the way, the Zeta program, which is formerly Global Turnpike, has been around for about 10 years. It's as far as I understand, it's the #2 largest EOBR device on the market after Qualcomm. By far, one of the less expensive, and they have an installed base of around 200,000 trucks right now.
And I got a question. I blew right over the most important thing out of this whole thing. It's how much is it going to cost the driver?
$3,040 a
yeah,
month.
there you go. Yeah. No, actually, no, I'm talking headquarter drivers here because that's what we're dealing with essentially at this point. But right now, the first 5 guys, we gave them a real bargain. We're picking up the cost of the phone. We're paying for the total data package for the first 6 months. And after that, we'll pay $10 towards the data usage, which this device uses an extremely small amount of data. But as far as the actual cost for the EOBR program, we're picking that up. It's $35 a month, and we're paying that. So really, you know, the driver's cost out of this really should be an increase of the data package on his phone plan.
Okay, that's for the first 5 guys, correct?
Right. And
yeah, now this is for the first 5
and I
guys,
think the question they're asking is, okay, you want me to do this, what does this cost me? Because if I was sitting there saying, okay, well, if I cut back in, because I don't have to FedEx anymore and I have all this convenience, what is the cost-benefit relationship associated with it? And we've looked at those numbers, and we know for a fact that worst scenario is a break even, but the convenience and how the package you use improves your business, that it really becomes a no-brainer. Now, I think at this point in time, we don't want publicly say what something will cost, because if in fact we do push and go into a volume program, we don't know at that time, if the numbers change, to your advantage.
Right.
So but if you want to know something, if I throw a number out there, Greg's going to throw something across the table and what have you. But you know what you're spending today if you average 72 shipments.
Right. I do want to reemphasize what Greg said is this first 5 is our trial balloon. And it is an experiment, and we will be evaluating how well it works and the data and the cost. So far, in our very short time window of a few days, the initial results are good, but we are going to evaluate this thoroughly before the trial is up. And the first 5 units as a headquarters fleet representation, and should give us enough data to, I think, once we evaluate how well it works, to see the applicability for everything else. So this is our first time. We're new at it. We're learning, but so far so good.
Yeah, you're certainly not looking at some $1,000 bill or $500 bill on a monthly basis, guys. So just so you know that.
Yeah, you're looking at, you're looking at $10 maybe. Maybe more, maybe 20, who knows. Okay, Steve Brennan. He actually learned how to scan and email in just the time it took to do this webinar.
So that means Rich Ayo must be sitting in his office, and Rich has his Verizon phone, and Steve is working it. Is that correct?
Well, knowing Rich and Steve, they're probably still looking for their passwords and user IDs. I spent a little time yesterday straightening them out on those. But no, this just goes to help prove that it's not something that takes you years to learn. It's just a little short learnings.
Well, you know what's nice? Even our agent family now is into the scanning. And
absolutely.
And I will tell you, it has helped speed up payment to our agents. It's helped speed up our billing time. So email and scanning attachments are here to stay. They're not going anywhere.
That's the other thing too. All the agents out there, if you're not scanning paperwork and transmitting it to headquarters, you're losing money. I mean, you can buy a scanner now for a single-page scanner you can probably pick up for $30-40. It's on sale at Best Buy or someplace, and it doesn't take, you don't have to be a computer genius to learn how to run one. It not only will cut down on all your postage fees and things of that nature, it speeds up the amount of time it takes in order for you to get paid from us. So it's probably one of the best investments you could make. Okay, any other questions out there? I'm going to go back a little bit. I had a couple questions that I got after we'd already finished discussing it. Packing, is it standard procedure for packing agents to inventory cartons that have not, that they have packed and not written anything on the cartons?
What?
Well, basically, a packing agent putting down a 1.5 carton, and that's it, Well, and not having anything on the box either.
Well, I would tell you that, number one, the carton rule is if you pack it, you better identify it, period. And that means not only in a carton, from a content standpoint, but the room that it came from and the room it's going to. And inventorying it properly. So I don't quite get that. If you pack something, why you would never put them, you would never identify in the box. So unless we're not understanding the question.
Well, I think I think what you need to do is come back, call central operations, and say, hey, look, I'm out here going to load a shipment that agent so and so packed, and none of the cartons are marked, and then let central ops contact the agent and deal with it.
I'm not sure what you mean by not marked.
Well, no contents listed on the outside of the box.
Well, then if you pull out your smartphone and you snap a picture or two of the boxes, I mean, I'm very serious about that. You immediately send it to your dispatcher so that when you're communicating with them, you can tell them exactly what it is. The dispatcher turns around, sends that email to the agent and says, why? Why would you pack and not identify the boxes? That agent could have had somebody new that day and they gave him the simplest box to pack, and that person didn't identify those 10 boxes, So we're doing the entire system improvement process when we're communicating that information immediately back to the agent that packed the job so that they can address that right away, because if that same person is out the following day on another job, we're going to have the same problem. So, the instantaneous communication is invaluable.
Okay. Cornelius Johnson said to tell drivers that it's easy to scan stuff. He's been doing it now for about a year and having good luck with it. Okay, from somebody across the street.
What time am I coming back?
Yeah, we miss you.
They want to leave early, huh? Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Is a driver still liable for any damages, even when a driver has agent-approved labor?
Say the question one more time.
Driver would like to know if he's still liable for damages on a job if it's done by the helpers, and the helpers are from one of our agents.
Well, you know, we go back to this whole thing. You're an independent operator. You hire labor. Your job is to manage the crew. And you manage the crew. Part of it is, I guess, you determine before you get to the home what their abilities are. You know, why would you want to put somebody in a trailer to load the trailer if they don't know how to load it? Or if you have somebody that has done it before, but you guide them through the first couple of tiers, right? But if you're talking about someone that picks up a box and drops it as they're walking downstairs, are you liable for the claim? The answer is yes. Who else is in control of that crew out there? You are.
Okay. William Johnson, he says, are you saying I could scan my paperwork and send it to Stacy and she can start processing it so I get paid and then send in paperwork by mail? That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if you scan the paperwork with your smartphone and you email it to Stacy, she can start processing that order in most cases. I'm not going to say 100% of the time, but in most cases, and get you paid. And yes, then you can take the original copies and put them in a regular mail envelope and send them in.
What's that noise? I hear him going to a Verizon place now.
Hey, running to the store to get a smartphone. Okay.
We joke a little bit, but you know, when you get involved in that and you do that, you're going to like it and wonder how you existed without it.
I agree. You know, I think back, like I said, 25 years ago, driver left. He was worried about having a pocket full of change because he had to stop at a payphone to call every, you know, so many times a day. And my God, when a fax machine first came out, it was a minor miracle. It was, you know, it was just the most fantastic thing we ever saw. Now, who needs fax machine? You got a smartphone.
Let's end with some levity here. You know, I gave one of our new drivers 2 weeks ago my cell phone number and said, if you need something, you know, drop me an email or text me. Well, I guess I must be part of his family now because I'm getting texts 3-4 times a day. We'll have to take him to texting counseling, huh? But
you said if you could help.
I know. A little over the top, but that's okay. You know, we'll work with that.
Hey, Jim, can you send me a pizza?
Yeah, right. I need money. That slide you should be seeing right now is the newly, we spent $1.75 million developing the University of TCS Crest. And that's what you see up there. And it's all about training and total customer satisfaction. And this year we have, at the end of March on Friday the 30th, or what's Friday? The 30th and Saturday 31st, right in Bay City. We will be hosting our many of our agents' employees as well as our own PVOs and those PVOs that need to be schooled that actually have CSA issues. We'll bring those folks in. Drivers that are below a 3 rating, we are working diligently to get them in here. So, I mean, it's all about training and training so that we can have a happy customer at the end of the day. I want to encourage any of our drivers, okay, now write this one down because you may not be registered, but if you are within a couple hundred miles, or you think you're going to be in a couple hundred miles and you want to come up here to Saginaw, and visit and participate on Saturday in the university, you're more than welcome. But we do need to know up front if you think you're going to be in the area because we want to make sure, huh? Yeah, we got to feed you. Exactly. Jerry reminded me, got to feed you. So we need no head count for food. And I know some of you don't eat much, and some of you will eat for 4.
But we got plenty of bologna.
Yeah. But in all honesty, the hotel that we're having it in, you know, for the last-minute guys that are in the area that want to come up and visit and what have you, you know, we'll have to make some type of hotel arrangement. So, but don't let that stop you from coming in. We'll figure it out. You know, find a place where to lay your head down. We'll feed you and enjoy each other's company for a day. If you're in here on Friday and you get here, you know, so we can get you registered on Friday, which is the 29th. Give me a map. Give me a calendar here. I'm all confused here.
You need a map to the calendar?
That's how confused I am. Okay, so I believe Friday is the 30th and Saturday is the 31st, correct?
At first.
So registration starts at 5 o'clock on Friday. So talk to your dispatcher. You know, those agents that are on the call. If you have one of your drivers out in this area that normally doesn't get out here, let's get them in. Let's run them through this. I mean, it's a great opportunity at minimal expense to you at all. So for those agents that have not signed up yet, and I'm going to tell you that I'll say it as slow as I can. I'm sorry I don't have it up on the screen, but if you go to www.regonline.com and a / that's below the question on your keyboard, and go to 2012 UOFTCS, okay? That's University of Total Customer Satisfaction. That's what that stands for. So, but you know what? If you have any other questions about this event, give me a holla on my cell phone at 989-412-0659, or give me a shout via my email. So please consider it. You know, to kind of wrap this up, we did something in 2 presentations that I think we never thought that would happen here at this company. Between the folks that are registered today that have participated, and I mean fully participated, you've hung around and listened to everything, and that's very commendable, and we thank you for that. We've trained in the, between last Wednesday and today well over 200 service providers. And it's just the tip of the iceberg, and the participation on something like this is fantastic. So on that, we want to thank you. And no other particular questions out there?
No, but someone's smartphone says it's after 3.
Really? There you go. All right, everyone. Thank you very much, and be safe out there. Thank you. Bye-bye.